What's up, guys and gals? Griever back here, and Happy New Year, everyone, because this is the first behind the bar view of 2020, the new year, and we're starting off with a new series. No, it's not Spartacus, but I felt the premise of Spartacus, gladiator fights, arena, literally Wrath of the Gods, War of the Gods, the arena, Gods of the Arena, all the series. This is the complete box series for Spartacus, and it's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is something that I do not own a single volume of, and I thought this was a close representation of the series and what's kind of going on. A little bit, some gladiatorial fights. And that series is none other than Shuumatsu no Valkyrie, also called Record of Ragnarok. Let's get into this. This is chapter 25. It's my first behind the bar review. I did a discussion series, 3 videos long, roughly looking at 2.5, 3 hours total, to discuss the beginning of the series leading all the way up to where we are right now. It covers the first 3 fights, the first 3 major fights, so I won't be going over any of that. We're just going to jump right into the chapter. So if you're curious about my thoughts about the beginning of the series up till now, go check out those videos. So, I got to use a young man's terminology. The young man's, what the kids are saying today. I stan both of these characters. I stan them. And you know what the problem with that is? It sucks for me to decide who I want to win, and who I think should win, and who I think will win. It really clouds my judgment. Because I'm biased on both sides, so the bias is completely out, right? In all honesty, though, all chips on the table, I have a feeling, this is my prediction, it's been my prediction the whole time, is that this fight ends differently. It's not a clear-cut winner. Does that make sense? For example, I brought up the idea of a draw, but then a lot of people said, well, that would break the whole 13 fights, and then it might not happen, blah, 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 and I said, not necessarily. Because if we had a draw right now, they could still win the rest of the fights, because remember, it's only the first to win 7. A draw could still happen now, and we might not actually get to the 13th fight. Of course, knowing manga, of course we will, but we could still have a draw early on and still end short of the full 13 fights, if that makes sense. Now, the way the series is going, I doubt it, but a draw is possible, and this is the first matchup that I thought a true draw would happen. However, there's another idea. Ever since we found out about Hercules' backstory and the labors of Hercules, just right off the bat, I think Hercules will win, and I believe that he will then die after winning the fight. He will use up his labors, the tattoo will consume him, and he will die shortly after leaving the stadium, or maybe right there after he was declared winner, or something like that. That will happen. That's what I believe. That's my theory on the outcome of this fight. But I could be totally wrong, and Jack might win the fight. Because in this chapter, what we get is the main bulk of the chapter is Jack's backstory. And Jack, this is not the backstory I thought. And I didn't think Jack was this type of character. When we begin the chapter, he does a version by some very famous what do you call? I don't even know. I don't even know what you call them. They basically compiled all the Oxford Dictionary of children's rhymes and stuff, and they're retelling, sort of not retelling. It's hard to say. They were the compilers. Anyways, I don't really know the accurate term to call them. Literature experts, I guess, literary experts. And they had a version where it's London Bridge is broken down. And throughout this chapter, we see that he sings London Bridge is falling down, which is what most of us are familiar with. And that lyric is still here. But in the subtext, there was still London Bridge is broken down, which kind of fits the tone more than falling down. It's broken, it's twisted, it's gone, it's ugly, The broken down has a more harsh tone than falling down, It's already broken. London Bridge is falling down indicates that it's currently falling. London Bridge is broken down is basically the aftermath. There's already rubble. And it's a perfect way at the beginning of the chapter to jump into Jack's backstory. Now, his backstory, as I said, is completely different from anything that I thought. I thought what we would go is on the route that I've heard this theory before, where Jack the Ripper was a surgeon. And, I mean, a little crazy, but he, clearly, I always thought that Jack was probably a little mad. But I believe that he had this righteous, I've heard this theory before very, very quickly. Jack the Ripper was a surgeon at a low-income, destitute little medical clinic where he was a great surgeon, but he couldn't do anything without the proper equipment and the proper organs, organ transplants, kidneys, liver, stuff for kids, right? And he was working on kids and couldn't save their life because he didn't have the way. He can't create, a new kidney. He can't create a new lung. He can't make a new pancreas. He can't do these things. He has the skill, but he couldn't do it. And then he saw, in the nighttime, like is depicted at the beginning of this backstory, is that there was an ugly side to London. London was fair and nice and prosperous, but there was an ugly side. And we even see a little similar part is the inclusion of the whole prostitutes thing, right? Because he killed a number of prostitutes while surgically removing, by all accounts, organs with precision. The theory goes is that he was this doctor, this surgeon, and he killed prostitutes specifically and took their organs because he was transplanting them into children. People, he got a bit of a messiah complex and deemed that prostitutes or whores or whatever they were wasting their lives. They weren't worthy of having those organs, while these little children still had a chance at a good life sort of idea. But these people trampled their lives. They weren't, they were whatever, like bad things, scum of the earth, that kind of idea, right? And that's where the theory goes on. That was where I thought Jack was going. He was the gentleman and stuff, and I could see like the little bit of the madness in his eye, but it made sense, calculating as he has been through this whole fight. Now, this story does have the prostitute thing and the ugly side of London, but the whole doctor thing doesn't seem to play a part. Not at all. What seems to happen here is that Jack was a young boy, and the whole eye thing. Okay. The eye thing reminds me of something in a show called Heroes. I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with it, where they could see someone who could not, was deaf, could not hear, could play music and see sound in color. Could see music in color, right? It was a very, I forget the usage of this power, but it was interesting. I think it was tied to emotions and stuff. So I feel a little bit, and I know it's been used before, the whole seeing emotions as color thing. I know that's a thing. Not necessarily with an eye or something, but this doesn't really seem to, honestly, it seems almost unnecessary for the character. We didn't need the eye thing, I guess, if that makes sense. Because, I mean, it was a good plot device, I guess, for him to, like, hurt his darling mother here in the backstory. But that's all it did. It was basically a way to simplify, okay, he started to go crazy. He started to go mad, and he couldn't cope, and his mind snapped. He went Joker-fied, right? That's what happened to Jack. He went Joker from the despair of what happened, of the situation. They simplify it with the whole emotions, and that's his reasoning. And they manifest it in an actual version. Like, he can see emotion, and he does believe, like, this art is beautiful. It wouldn't surprise me if he started getting into painting after this. But, yeah, so this backstory simply goes, as I said, it doesn't go on the same road as that theory. What it does do is we see the entirety of Jack living as this little boy, the son of a prostitute in a brothel, one of the sixth one, the only one she kept. For some reason, she didn't kill all the others. She kept Jack, and she raised him, and he's, scrounging for scraps and stuff, and ever since he saw the ugliness with his eye, but in his eye, he saw his mother as beautiful. He would scrounge for scraps, and she loved him and cared for him and was so doting on him and stuff, and he just was filled with love. It didn't matter who kicked and punched and hurt him and stuff, and what happened in his life and how his life was shit. It didn't matter because his mother loved him. Now, here's where everything goes downhill. because he saw his mother as this blinding light. As I said, it's a cool metaphor, the whole eye thing. The physical representation is a little, is what, like, I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm just saying that, like, it's almost unnecessary because it's pretty black and white as we saw it. Like, we could have seen it. I saw her as, I kind of forgot about the eye thing, honestly, up until what just, like, happens next. I kind of forgot. Like, they said, okay, the eye thing. Then the eye thing's not relevant. Then it kind of is, but it was, like, not needed to push him to that level. That's all I'm saying, because here, all of a sudden, his whole life and everything, his doting mother, the one shining beacon, the only thing that made him happy, and in fact, it made him the happiest boy in the world, because he had his mother's love. Apparently, the reason she killed the other 5, they weren't useful. And she tells him that basically up front. I should have stabbed you and killed you with a clothes hanger when you were still in my womb, because you're useless to me. Because a playwright, a failing playwright, had promised her 13 years ago that once he made it big with his plays, he would come back for her. He was her ticket out. And we read in the paper that he made it big, but he married into nobility, and he's got money and status and all this stuff, and never came back for her. And all Jack was, this poor little boy, was in a world of filth and shit. That was his one thing, and he was used as a tool by his own mother. So then, as I said, he sees emotions specifically. So I can kind of see the tie in here, because he always saw her shining in love. Love must be this radiant, awesome, rainbow-esque color. Like an angel's light level of color that he sees. And that was enough, because he saw all the blacks and the dark reds and the deep greens and the sadness, for envy and jealousy and hatred and scorn and all this stuff, right? And dominance, like all these ugly colors. But with her, he saw such a beautiful light, that being of love, that it was all okay. But then after all this incident, he finally realizes, when she starts throwing things and confessing that he's useless to her, she never should have had him. Realizes right there in that moment, after he says, I'll protect you, I'll help you, we can get by with just the two of us, he realizes that love, that light, the one good thing in his life that he saw this whole time, was never even for or about him. And that just, I get why he's fucked up. I get it. I fully understand. And then, as I said, he went Joker. He went nuts. And they used the whole eye seeing emotion thing as the plot device here. And as I said, I'm on the fence whether I think it's well done, or I don't think it cheapens anything. I'm on the fence whether it was necessary. That's all. It was still well done, because, as I said, I'm even using it to showcase how powerful this kind of was. So maybe that was the intention. Because here he just starts crying, and he can't, like, he's broken at this point. Insanity, mind snap, reality sets in, and he's just completely take your mind and throw it at the wall, and then put it back in after, putting a few chainsaws, cuts in it. That's what happened. His mind is completely snapped. It's completely broken. And then he just grabs her neck. Don't worry, mother, I'll save you. And starts choking her. And then the one emotion he's probably never seen before, fear. And it wasn't, I guess it was almost euphorical for him, because this was another emotion that he basically got off on, because he couldn't get love. But fear was like, she was ugly in her hatred, because that's all he's ever seen. He's seen hatred. He's always seen ugliness. Fear's not an emotion he seems to be used to or ever accustomed to, and it's a brand new color. Maybe this is what he can't have the love. The love has been shattered. But now he can see fear. And fear is his new light. It's his new version of love. So then he's like stabbing and choking her, like, I'll make you beautiful again, pretty much, and hacks her. The walls are just covered in blood, and that's just grisly, but he's holding her. He's like, you've never looked more beautiful, while she's petrified, dying, and just, oh, it's kind of, of course, it's absolutely sick. Not kind of sick. It's absolutely horrifically sick. Once again, I get why his mind snapped, but damn. And then he goes and he kills his father because he realizes who he is, and of course he's been reading Shakespeare and stuff, so Jack is a smart man. He takes his father's hat, and all that stuff, and then we don't get, maybe we will in the next part, like in the next chapter or a chapter later, we will get the later half, because this is just his childhood. This is what made him go crazy and start killing. He killed his mother, he killed his father, and he can see emotion with his eyes, and fear is his new drug. It's his drug of choice. He's not going to go for love, he doesn't go for hate or anger, he goes for fear. And we know why. I mean, if they tie into the history of Jack the Ripper, we will now know why he kills prostitutes, because his mother. And he feels like his mother's gone, his dad's gone, maybe he can get the same rush if he kills similar women. I can see that angle. Maybe they'll do something else with it. I'm kind of intrigued, because this is not something I expected at all. I'll admit that. And I'm excited. It was really, really good, this whole backstory thing. I'm curious if they will show the other half of his life while he was an actual murderer. Like, not just killing his mom and dad in an insanity thing, but like the actual victims in real life. I would like to see that section. Teenager, young adult Jack the Ripper, and where his reasoning was there. I'm really look forward to seeing that. But before we end the review, we have to jump back to the actual fight. Now, this is where a lot of people will say, how at the beginning of this video I said, I got faith, I stand both characters, I like them both, but how can you still think Hercules can win? And I said that at the beginning of this chapter. And of course, at the beginning of this review, I said I still say Hercules will win. It'll be a draw, or Herc wins, and then he dies afterwards because of the tattoo thing, right? The labors. How can you say that after seeing this? That's the question, of course, some of you might ask. And the reason is, first off, we didn't actually see what the Cretan bull does. You know, he activated the 7th labor in this fight, and he gets a little interrupted. Just a wee interruption here at the end of the chapter, but he's got plenty of other labors, and I'm more curious about the final labor. That's what I want to know. And I also want to know if he uses all of them, what happens then? Like, they say he dies, but does he go out in a big blaze of glory for, like, is it like the one form Escanor for a minute before he burns away the rest of his life in an ultimate god form or something? That's what I'm saying. I'm not counting Hercules out just yet. This seems too one-sided. And the other thing is the theory about Jack's Volant, because there's something fishy here. Hercules is straight up. Hercules is straight up physical. He's got his attacks. He's got his power. He's got his strength. Jack is relying on cunning, deception, and the fact that Hercules is being arrogant, is being godlike, but he's being prideful and arrogant, and he's not taking into account the possibilities of the impossibilities, shall we say, because once we jump back from the Jack backstory, we get, him still singing London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady. And then, okay, he explains what I was talking about earlier, and it's a little serial killer-esque, but pretty much at the pinnacle, right before people die, the fear that envelops them is one of the most beautiful sights. You could paint the greatest artwork about it, that kind of idea. So once again, it's his drug. It's his, not a utopia, but it's, euphoric for him to kill people, because that's the most beautiful sight to him, and that's what he keeps looking for. So, and it's not enough to see it once or twice or 3 times. He's got to keep doing it. So, okay, I was expecting something a little bit more, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Jack backstory was great, but that basically then it's like, okay, and yeah, he just kills because, it was great the first time. I mean, granted, we do that with a lot of things. Booze, drugs, sex. I mean, to have it once, it's like, hell yeah, I'm doing that again. So, yeah, I kind of get that. At least that it would be that simple anyways. So, basically, Hercules says, nah, man. I'm sorry, even if I do lose to you, you aren't going to see what you think you'll see because I don't fear death. And we know that from his backstory that Hercules ain't afraid of death. So he's not just boasting, it's kind of accurate, He was willing to give up his life all the time, and I don't think he was afraid. Hercules is not afraid of death. He fears his departure from justice, what he deems right, and his morals. If he holds on to his morals for himself, there's very little that's going to stand in his way. This is where, of course, they start fighting again. Jack throws a bunch of knives and stuff. Herc is ready, like ting, 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 ting. Those won't work anymore, sort of idea. Jack is backed up against the wall. Once again, in a one-on-one actual combat, Jack is at a huge disadvantage. So with any grappling hooks up to the wall, up to Big Ben there, or I believe it's supposed to be Big Ben. I don't know if they stated in the chapter. I forgot to check. But yeah, let's assume the Tower of London or something. Whatever. Either way, jumps up to the clock tower. We'll call it the clock tower. I'm pretty sure it's Big Ben. But jumps up to the clock tower. And then the grappling hook, the Batman hook falls. And he's, oh shit. Sort of idea. And that's when, Hercules is like, it's useless. Bang, bang, and he knocks down the tower pretty much. Activates the Cretan Bull, the seventh labor. We don't get to see what it does because as the tower is falling, we see Jack hanging onto the actual clock piece, the entire round piece with the hour hands and stuff. And then he rips it off somehow and like frisbee throws it at Hercules. It's like he's not even using a weapon, and Hercules is just standing there, or Heracles is standing there, and he's just like, Herc is basically like, haven't I told you many times before? And he's ready to attack. He holds up his arm to block the incoming, spiral disc of time is up, I guess. And no hand. Heracles. Yeah, I'm always going to jump back and forth between both names. Heracles actually loses an arm. So we don't see what the seventh labor does this chapter because that's where the chapter ends. In an epic ass final, I won't say the final panel, the second last panel, but it is awesome. And you just see it. If you guys have a chance, join my Discord. I believe it's there in color. I think I saw it on my Discord. It might have been another one, but I'm sure somebody from my Discord can find it and post it there. In color, it looks sick. It's got to be one of my favorite panels of the entire series. It looks so good, even though I'm still standing Hercules to win the fight. This looked brutal, and Hercules is just shocked, and that's what he said. I heard you. I heard you many times, my fair lady. End of chapter. So we have no idea how that's possible, how it happened. Even Heracles, he's shocked. Herc is just like, what the? What happened? And we don't even see what the Cretan Bull did. So what does that mean? Now, he could have a labor that might repair his arm or do something similar or bring his arm back. We don't know. But, because we only seen, there's multiple labors and they can't all just be Herc smash, and I mean, they'd all be the same labor. Why would he keep doing that? He can smash just fine without the labors. So, and why would he use different ones? So they can't all just be big smash, bigger smash, biggest smash. That doesn't make sense. It's not the Hulk. So this, I'm really curious to see what chapter 26 is going to bring us, because I feel like now we're going to see some Hercules come back, so we're going to see Jack actually start to sweat or something. I feel like this is a little too one-sided, because a lot of the theories going around is, number one, the big theory is that the entire city of London is his Volland. Anything he uses within it is his Volland, and he can use any part of it to attack. First off, that seems cheap as hell. You know, that's kind of an unfair advantage, OP. I mean, you could say, oh, it's against a god, blah, 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 but all the other fights have been fair. It's been a Voland is a single weapon, not multiple weapons and the entire environment around him. That's a serious disadvantage to Heracles. And the other theory that I heard, which I came up with myself, or I know other people have, shout out to Chubb in my Discord. Chubb also had a similar idea. I thought it was something that everything, looking at this chapter, everything he touches becomes his Voland. Something about that. That's where Chubb came up with the idea that his gloves are his Voland, and everything he touches becomes his Voland as a, you know, okay, so I'm touching this, I touch the knives and throw the knives are my Voland. I touch the umbrella's my Voland. I touch the clock piece is my Voland. That, okay, once again, really OP and unfair considering the other Volands that we've seen thus far, especially the first unit, Adam. Adam just got a set of brass knuckles. Even Sasaki, the first human to win a fight, only got 2 swords out of it. You're telling me that one of these, you know, one of the Valkyrie became an entire city or became gloves that can, I could buy, like, as I said, I could buy the limitation if, okay, my gloves are my Voland and anything I touch and hold become the Voland. I can buy that as being fair, but the fact that he can use them as throwing items, once it leaves the glove, it should no longer be a Voland in my opinion. So I'm really curious. Otherwise, I find this unfair. I find this OP, not broken, but this is very huge handicap. Like, in my opinion, like, compared to the other 3 fights. So I'm just really curious. Once again, these are just theories, but what do you guys think? How is Jack doing this? What is Jack's Voland, truly? And maybe it'll make more sense. Maybe it'll be less. Maybe there'll be a huge hindrance. They'll be exploited by Heracles in the next chapter or the chapter after. Because I don't think this fight is ending next chapter. I think we still got 2 or 3 chapters easy before this fight is actually concluded. So anyway, this review has gone on long enough. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Happy 2020 to everybody. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Don't forget to hit the bell notification if you guys want to know every single time I drop a video. The link to my Discord will be down in the description box down below. This has been First Behind the Bar Review for Record of Ragnarok, or also known as Shuumatsu no Valkyrie. I'm excited to continue to review this series every single time a chapter drops. No, I don't read, just really quickly, I sometimes check raws, but I do not, I do wait for an actual translation I can read. I know there are ones up on YouTube that are rough, but are pretty good translations. I don't like to watch my manga, I like to read my manga. So my reviews might be a little late than people are reading, but that's just me. Hope you guys understand and hope you guys like that. This is a brand new series coming to you from 2020, right at the beginning of the year. I'm excited to review this series all the way to the end, however long it's supposed to be. So this has been Griever with your Behind the Bar Reviews, guys. Drink responsibly as always. Responsibly. Jesus, maybe I should take a page out of my own book. All right, guys. We'll see you back here next time.